My name is Bruce Briggs, and I'm a film director from Omaha, Nebraska. I have a background in art. That kind of sums it up. I kind of incorporate elements as I see fit now into film, but I kind of like stepped away from that. My main focus is just filmmaking. I don't miss anything I used to do because I can still kind of cherry pick from whatever I need, in the toolbox and bring it over into whatever project I'm working on. Uh, the transition from portrait art to filmmaking is it's kind of a long story. And it's like really offbeat. It's like offbeat happenstance. It was like back in MySpace days when they used to do MySpace bulletins. You know how you could post like a bulletin on MySpace. I used to do a bulletin every Wednesday called Bruce's Thought of the Day, and I was just something funny I decided to do on the side, and I was kind of beating myself up, for it because it didn't really have anything to do with my artwork. But I was also trying to find a way to drive more traffic to my website because nobody's going to be checking for somebody who's painting portraits every day. They're not going to be coming back to my website. Did he paint something new? I'd always have to draw attention to when I did paint something new. I had to point people back to my website. So I'm like, how can I put people on my website every day? So I started off with the bulletin, and I decided to. It was just text and pictures. I decided to do a video, and this was before. This was like when YouTube first started jumping off. Like YouTube just came out, it was brand new, and I saw it as this great resource. So I had a friend of mine who was like, "Hey, yeah, I'm a filmmaker. I'm a filmmaker," but he had never made anything. So I said, "Hey, you want to do this, and I want to do this. Why don't we start making videos? And every video that I do, I'll do a thought of the day, where I'll kind of sit there and you I don't know if you ever seen any episode of Martin where they'll do the little shot where they'll go inside the character's head and Cole will be sitting there like he'll just have crickets in his head and somebody else will be thinking something profound like they're looking up but their mouths aren't moving. So I'm like I'm gonna do that, and that's gonna be the premise of this video series that I wanted to do. This was before they even had a word. They didn't even call it web series back then. I was like I'm just gonna do one every Wednesday. And I told my buddy, I'm like, hey man, why don't you go get a camera? Let's just film this. He's like, all right, cool, yeah, yeah, yeah. So a week went by. I'm like, hey, I'm really serious about this. Let's do it. He's like, all right, cool. And I wanted to put like a painting behind every video just to kind of soft sell the artwork. And I didn't know what I was doing. I'm like, let me just try this. So after a while, I got tired of asking him, and I went to Walmart and I just got like like one of those digital still cameras. It was like 3.1 megapixels, and that was like the big thing at the time. Like, oh wow, this is almost got like 4 megapixels on it. So I sat it on an ironing board. That was my tripod, and I had this mural in my old apartment, and it was like a Outcast mural from Idlewild. It was my favorite movie, and I just started shooting, and then I just fell in love with it. So that's kind of how I got into it, and then I started getting into YouTube, little silly videos and stuff, and just kind of took off from there. There's like a couple of remnants of the early days. I was telling my man just a minute ago, like I think one of the earliest videos I did, I think it was this one called Romello DeMarco, R&B Sensations, little character that I made up. And this is right. I mean, this is funny how things kind of happen because this is back when people would like wear skinny jeans, and you would be like, "What the fuck is he doing?" It looked like he had on stretch pants. And so I borrowed these pants from this girl that I was seeing at the time, and I put them on, and I couldn't even zip them up, and I made a joke out of it, and I'm like coming down the stairs in these skinny jeans and these Jordan 5s. And everybody thought it was hilarious, but then like the next year, everybody was really wearing skinny. So if you go back and watch a video, that joke is kind of lost because of where shit went in fashion. But like I had a lot of fun doing it. It's this really cheesy ass video. Like I took this TLC beat and just like made some different lyrics over it and just had fun. So that's still up. The Super Black Mario Brothers, that's still up. And there's been like a bunch of Black Mario Brothers videos to come out since then. But yeah, a couple of them are. I had to get rid of a few, but I have them still like in a little archive or whatever. Because I like when I get done with something, I want to just I think it's terrible, and I want to just hide it. It's like I guess it's one of the pitfalls of artistry. When you're working on something, you think it's the greatest thing ever. You can't sleep the night before, and Even if it's something that's just gonna go up on Facebook, like, man, I can't wait. I can't sleep. I'm gonna put this shit on Facebook tomorrow, and this is gonna blow up, and niggas is gonna go crazy when I put this up. And you put it up, and you get like 40 hits, you know. You still, so like you on to the next thing. You just like, okay, whatever. You got this greater idea, you know. But in the moment, I live for that moment though. In that moment, you think it's the greatest thing ever, you know. I think that my mom is my greatest influence. She was kind of like the person who would sketch, and I'd catch her sketching on like a you know, a cocktail napkin or a piece of paper or something, and I want to do what she did. And for a while, I thought she had like a magic pencil. I remember this is one of my earliest memories. I thought she had a magic pencil, so I'm like, I'm gonna borrow your pencil. Let me use your pencil, because it just seemed like her hand was being guided by the pencil, almost like it was like a Ouija board or something. And I thought it was some kind of magic. So I would get her pencil, and then I could like feel the art inside of me, but I couldn't get my hands to go right. So I used to get really frustrated. And then that's when she told me, she instilled in me, like, you know, perseverance. Like, if you keep doing this over and over, you know, you'll get better and better. And at the time, this was the early 80s, so it was Ninja Turtles on TV, the original cartoon. And I would just sit there and draw turtles, and I would try to catch them in a certain pose while while it's on live TV. You couldn't pause TV back then. You couldn't look it up on the internet. Like, you had to watch that shit live. And at the end of that 22 minutes minus commercial, or 30 minutes minus commercials, it was over. You had to wait till the next day to try to catch them again. So I tried to draw them out as fast as I could. And I remember something that still rings in my head today. My mother she was like, if you keep drawing, you know, if you keep drawing these turtles, one day you'll be better than the people who actually draw them. And I'm like, that's impossible. Like, they draw them though. But I believed her, because that's my mom. She could have told me that I could fly, and I would have been on the roof the next day, you know, trying to flap my arms. But I just stuck with it just because she put that battery in my back. But as far as inspiration, I would say my mother's my greatest influence. But as far as inspiration, I don't think I've ever. It's hard. Inspiration is hard to come by for me when it comes to like another person. I feel like inspiration comes more from circumstance or situations, or just it could even be like an inanimate object. But you know, I feel like that's the distinction. Inspiration comes from things, and help me out. Influence. Thank you. Influence comes from people. I guess a better way to answer that question is like, what can I look back at and not cringe? It's tough. It's tough. There's these two paintings that I did for Jay-Z. There was a picture of the Reasonable Doubt. It was like the 10th anniversary. It was 2006, and I did the Reasonable Doubt CD cover with like a gold background, and then I did a painting of Biggie, and I sent them to Def Jam, and they bought the paintings from me. So I mean, that, like, I'm really happy with the way those turned out. Not just the transaction, but the way that those turned out. And I don't know. I couldn't even really pick another one. I think it's really that one that kind of just stands out to me. Everything else is just kind of like, it's okay, it's cool. Did some stuff for Ti, and there's like a couple of like NFL clients, and I did something for Oprah, but I don't know if she ever got it. Like, it's rumored that they had this painting hanging up in her studios while she started her TV show. It's like some little just crazy like odds and ends, like some stories, and people are like, whoa, that's amazing. And I was like, but I'm not. I wish I would have. You know, I could have redone the painting, and I look back at this stuff like, man, it's just fucking terrible. You know. I'm writing a screenplay, and I'm working on a short film. So I should be shooting the short film within the next month. I can't really talk too much about that. Yeah, I can't talk too much about it because it's kind of one of those projects where if I said anything about it, it would just kind of completely spoil the entire project as far as like what it is and where it's going to go. And I don't even know how I'm gonna market it yet. Or I have an idea, but I'm not really sure the direction I want to take in marketing. But that was my drive for Above the Hype um, was the ownership that I felt growing up collecting sneakers and coming up in the golden era of like the Nike silhouettes, the classic silhouettes everybody knows, and there weren't retros. These shoes were coming out. You didn't know how many shoes Jordan was gonna come out with. He come out with the Jordan 11s, and I was in 8th grade, and you know, people would come to school. They had the patent leather on them, and they look like, a lot of people don't even realize this. They look like Sunday shoes, but like with the spats on them. You remember like they had like the spats back in the day that you put like the little white covers over the shoe. If you look at the shoe now and you kind of like squint your eyes, it look exactly like that. And that was the inspiration for that shoe. They wanted to bring like a formal look to the court. So I remember getting East Bay magazine, and we passed this magazine around, and Nathan Hale, and you know, oh man, I'm gonna get these, and you go home and watch your ball players on TV, and they have these shoes on the court, and you want them to zoom in on the shoe, but it wasn't really about the shoes back then. So that and having ownership, my favorite player, a feeling of ownership. Like my favorite player was Penny. I had the Penny Hardaway posters and all the commercials, and sit there just watch. And once again, you can't look this shit up. You have to sit there and wait. I hope they show the Penny commercial. I want to see the new kicks. So having that feeling of ownership, that sense of ownership and entitlement, like this is my culture, and then to see like the younger generation come in and just like stab that shit and kill that shit. To me, I was like, they don't even know about these shoes, and I felt really defensive about it. And what really changed my mind and made me decide that I wanted to do a project behind it was, I remember growing up and being spoon-fed a lot of music from an earlier generation. So I was, you know, when Biggie, you know, Junior Mafia came out with Get Money, I knew that was like Sylvia Stripling. Like they took that beat from Sylvia, and people were like, "You don't know nothing about that. That's not your music. What you know about that, youngster?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do. Like my older sister, and this is the Sunday morning cleanup music. Like I know all about this." So it was true to me, and it resonated with me. And then I realized that I had this aha moment when I was kind of like grumpy about these younger kids standing in line for these shoes that like foam posits. You don't know, like the foam posits sat on the shelves. You know, that shit pissed me off. And now you got people who like they can't keep them in stock. So I'm like, okay, I gotta shoot something. I gotta at least hand this down properly instead of saying you don't know nothing about that, because there are some kids who do, and then the kids who don't. I feel like it's up to the older generation to say, okay, let me at least hand this down and show you how to use it. It's almost like, not to be too long-winded about it, but it would almost be like a dad. A son driving a dad's car and tearing the shit up, and the dad's getting mad, like, why don't you show him how to fix it? Why don't you show him how to drive it instead, so that when you are not here, he'll at least know about it and he can pass it on down again, you know? So I had to check myself. I was pissed. I was real pissed about it. It was like old boy from the Five Heartbeats when I don't know if y'all seen that, when he walked over to the piano. I was like, nah, that's my music. He walked over and pushed old boy off the piano. Yeah, Above the Hype is basically, it's nothing too intense. It's just like a series of interviews and illustrations that kind of detail the current, I guess, like the hype era of things, and kind of brings people up to speed without kind of like beating them over the head with where sneaker culture is and where these shoes came from, and kind of why you should be collecting and staying true to the game. There was a documentary that came out in 2005 or 2006 called Just for Kicks. A lot of people were upset that Above the Hype wasn't a history lesson, but I feel like I couldn't really add too much to the history lesson that Just for Kicks spelled out without almost just kind of like ripping it off. You know what I mean? There was nothing more that happened over the last 10 years except like niggas stopped wearing throwbacks and Air Force Ones, really. You know, I couldn't make a documentary about that. Like it would have been, we don't wear that shit anymore. The end, and then it would have went off, and so. Not at all. But you know, and I say that, but then like I got me stuttering and everything. I camped out for some kicks recently. The red and white penny ones that just came out, the University Red penny ones, and it's funny because I was in line and I didn't know what the line was gonna be. It came out on Black Friday, so they had the mall open all night, and I'm like, I wonder if people are gonna try to stay here all night. Like I gotta be first in line. I wear 13, so they're probably only gonna get one of these in the store. So, and I didn't have a plug, so I'm like, I gotta get my shoe. And there was this young girl walked by, and I'm in line, and I got on like uh, just some little designer boots or whatever, had a little scarf on or whatever. And she walked by, she looked at me, she was like, "What shoes you waiting on?" And she was like, "You waiting on them Jordans?" It was like some Jordan 6s was coming out. I think the Jordan 6s are infrared, black and infrared 6s. "You waiting on those Jordans?" I was like, "No, I'm waiting on the pennies." And she laughed at me. Like maybe 18, 19 years old. I'm like, all right, whatever. You know, those are the shoes that I want, though. So yeah, I mean, I say that I'm not in it, but then I'll go back and get one just to scratch the itch. But I don't keep too many. Yeah. Have a single focus. You know, you don't want to be. And no offense, I haven't read any of you guys' Instagram or Twitter bios, but you don't want to be the person in there with like 40 things in your bio. Like, you know, it's like you have to focus on one thing, because anybody who's done anything worthwhile in life, they started out doing one thing. Puffy started out getting coffee. He wasn't the dude. Like, if he would have came up now, he wouldn't be like coffee getter slash Ciroc vodka slash bad boy entertainment music mogul. And by the time he does get to that point, he doesn't need to put shit in his bio because everybody knows his resume. So I'm saying, like, do one thing and master that, and try not to be a jack of all trades. And if you do have to, if you are like talented across the board, try to figure out how to roll all those things into one package. And you know, if you happen to be that talented and you have multi talents, you know, figure out a way to roll everything into one package and package it as one thing, as branding. Not as much as I guess people might think. I feel like I've grown more personally from the move than anything else, and it makes me appreciate Omaha a lot more. And everybody's like, you know, a lot of people that I know have this incredible disdain for Omaha, and I can't wait to get the fuck out of here. And at first it was like, I'm moving to Atlanta, and then they're like, I'm moving to Dallas, and yeah, exactly. And then they all have these little spots that they like to jump to. And the main reason I did move back to California was for film. But one of the things that I realize now, especially with the internet culture and the modern media landscape going the way that it is you could do anything from anywhere now, as long as you have people dedicated enough to help you out. And that's the one thing that I would say is the main difference. And the bigger problem that I run into in Omaha versus LA is there are more people dedicated and more focused on trying to put something together creatively and to collaborate. But it could still happen here. There's a certain set of obstacles that you'll face anywhere you go. But in that same breath, you know, you wouldn't go to Vegas to become an ice fisherman. You know what I mean? There's a little bit better climate to do certain things. I don't think that it really defines me as much as I define it. Um, it's more of just an outlet for me, and it's more therapy. Like I have like thousands of sketches that like I'll never show anybody. You know, the girl I'm dating, or you know, even my kids. Like I just keep them to myself, just because I'll just sit there and I'll just doodle and zone out. Yeah, I feel like just my creative talents are just more therapeutic than anything else. Um, I try to separate myself from what I do, but you know, it is ingrained in me. But I feel like if I wasn't doing if there was no such thing as money, I would still be doing the exact same thing. You know, if nobody was paying me any attention for what I'm doing, and everybody thought everything that I put out was terrible, I would still be doing it, just because of like what it does for my soul. So I guess it is inherently connected to me, and it is a part of me. But it's not something that I go out and like, you know, take my shirt off and flex about, like, hey, look at my tattoos, I designed these. You know, it's just kind of something that this is mine, and you know, you might not see my tattoos. It's, you know, metaphorically. I would say that if you're not willing to die for what you're trying to create, or behind it, and I'm not saying like, you know, going to like tag the White House or no shit like that and get shot up. I'm saying that if you don't feel like your creativity is air, if you don't feel that way, and if you feel like you can breathe without creativity, then you should probably get into something else. If you want to make money and make a ton of money, like in the film industry or even in art, you should probably just become a fucking stockbroker or investment banker if money's that important to you. I feel like the money will follow, but you have to have that passion first. Because without that, you could. There's plenty of people that are out there that are putting out trash and getting paid. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like only the super talented go on to be superstars. In the moment, I know that's not something people like to hear, but I'm not the guy with the 5-year plan. I'm like, I know what I'm working on now. I know that it'll take me however long. Like my immediate project will take me, the next month and a half. My intermediate project is going to be over the next 2 years, and then outside of that, I know I'm probably going to be inspired by something else. I have like hundreds of ideas. Then I keep this notepad, and I just write everything down in, and I can just draw from that. So it's kind of like you kind of want to have that versatility in anything creative, to not get bogged down by like this is where I want to be in 5 years, because a lot of times I've made that, like I'm old enough to have lived enough 5 years to where I'll get to that 5 years and either I'll not be where I wanted to be, or I'll have went a completely different direction or be past where I want to be. So I've learned to just not try to define that as much and just kind of go with the flow and live in the moment. And that creativity keeps me sparked and keeps me going in the moment. That's the best place to be, I feel like. I'm not sure if I really feel like I'm to that point yet where I feel like I would be bold enough to call myself a teacher. I don't know if that's up to me to give myself that title. I feel like if somebody was to come to me with some, questions or seeking advice, I'd be more than happy to give them that, because I didn't have anybody to help me out. So I mean, I've had like a couple of kids in Omaha here who they want me to critique a video that they shot, or they'll send me links, to stuff they've done, and I'll definitely give them feedback, but it's all based off of what I've learned and what I've taught myself. So I don't know. I mean, if the opportunity presented itself, I would definitely be open to it. I'm kind of going a certain way in film where my films will have a certain tone, but I guess just on a lighter level, I actually kind of have this idea to where I want to place pieces of artwork in every film that I do, and at the end of my career, I want to just have this big ass gallery show, and then people will be like, "Wait a minute, I remember these. Like you did all these," and I won't even credit myself in the credits or anything like that. And then maybe this will surface, and people will be like, "Oh, he planned it out." They have like 50 paintings in one room. I would say my signature would probably be to not have the typical like Hollywood fairy tale ending, where the person in the film or the character that you follow, it won't be all gravy at the end. It'll be some of the films might end a little fucked up, but there'll be like a gem of wisdom in that. And like, let's say it's a guy who he doesn't get the girl in the end. Well, maybe he realizes, okay, the next one I'm gonna treat it real sweet. Like, it'll be something like that. But he gets like fucked over, and that's it. Because that's kind of what happens in life. But it's about how you approach the next thing. So I think it'll be kind of something along those lines. Um, I have a love-hate relationship with the modern media landscape, but you can find me on Twitter at Bruce Briggs, and Instagram at Bruce the Director. And my website is brucebriggs.com or abovethehype.com. Oh, wait, abovethehype.net. Yeah, I messed that up.